All right. 2025 is coming to a close, so like every year, we make a bunch of big old roundup lists talking about some of the biggest and best game releases of the year. And this time around, we're talking about PS5 games. Games released on PS5 in 2025 that were really big. We got a whopping 25 or so games to talk about. So let's get started with number 25. We're starting off with a remake, remaster, re-release. It's The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, a reimagining of, in my opinion, one of the better RPGs of all time. Oblivion is essentially a really good old school fantasy style RPG, in the vein of like a Bethesda style RPG at least. Look, if you've only played Skyrim, I think you owe it to yourself to go back and play Oblivion, because with updated graphics and some modern features, it's easier to get into now, and essentially you got more of that style of game. Where Oblivion differs from Skyrim, I'd say, is like really strong faction stuff, just a really bright, fun, colorful palette, a little bit of a lighter fantasy setting, while also kind of going into the pits of hell at the same time. It's a nostalgic trip down memory lane for sure, but I think it still has plenty to offer for modern players who have never experienced it before. Next, over at number 24, we have Blueprints. It was a big year for puzzle games, but Blueprints is probably the biggest one, the one that swept people away the most. This is a roguelike puzzle game that is very much inspired by first-person puzzle games like The Witness, but the unique thing that it brought to the table was randomization. So you're not just doing puzzles in like a straightforward static environment. The game is constantly like changing up with every run that you do. So it adds a lot of complication. It can be incredibly challenging, but if you are a puzzle game person, this might be the one for you. Next, over at number 23, shifting gears completely, we have Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. This released earlier in the year, and I think a lot of people moved on from it already, but it's just another good, solid RGG game. This time centered around Majima playing pirate, but not pirate in like olden pirate times, like a spinoff. No, it's modern day Hawaii, and you're doing pirate stuff. But it is, yet again, another incredibly in-depth Yakuza / Like a Dragon game with tons of mini-games, diversions, complexities, and zaniness. If you like keeping things light and loose, but also you like a lot of variety, because that's the spice of life with gaming sometimes, this might be the game for you. Next at number 22, Monster Hunter Wilds. This year we saw the release of the next big Monster Hunter game, and it's certainly different. It's a fully massive open world that's completely connected and seamless. Totally different new types of monsters to hunt. Armor settings, cool weapons, a story that's there, and good multiplayer gameplay. Look, it's definitely not everybody's favorite Monster Hunter game if you look at reviews online. There's also still been some issues with PC performance. Personally, I found the game a little less engaging than your average Monster Hunter in terms of like difficulty and stuff. But it certainly has its moments, and if you're a casual Monster Hunter enjoyer, or maybe you get it on sale, it's still maybe worth checking out. Either way, even if they changed it to make it a little bit more accessible to new players, it is still just nice to see Monster Hunter going this strong so many years later. Because even if it may not be the best Monster Hunter game ever, there is still nothing better than the thrill of taking down a massive creature, and then using a piece of their ass to make a new hat or something. If you've played these games, you know what I'm talking about. Next, over at number 21, another remake, the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, now with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. This is a remake of the original Hideo Kojima classic that, as a hardcore fan, I found played it pretty safe. And I'm pretty sensitive to big changes. This is a straightforward retelling with better graphics of the original classic game. Slightly refined gameplay, some flashy visuals here and there, but essentially you are still getting the Metal Gear Solid 3 experience, and I think that's good. As time passes and generations change, you might think it's a no-brainer, Metal Gear Solid 3, obviously, but there are plenty of people who've never experienced it, so now is the time. It's a good entry point into the series, for sure. Konami didn't screw it up. I'm happy. If you guys watch these videos, you know I could talk about Metal Gear Solid all day, but again, this is a big list of games, so we gotta move on. Next at number 20, we always get plenty of Souls-like inspired games, but the big one this year was the first Berserker, Kazan. It's a spin-off of a franchise you may or may not have heard of, but you can go in completely blind with this adventure playing as a badass main character, and while some of the enemy design and some of the environment design left a lot to be desired, the actual core gameplay, the combat, absolutely kicks ass. But be warned, This is obviously like a subgenre of challenging games, but the first Berserker specifically is really, really challenging. Pretty early on in the game, it will beat your ass. There is a skill check, so be warned, but if you're a masochist and you like these types of things, you can have a blast with this one. There's really good weapon types and some over-the-top challenging boss battles. Next at number 19, if you're looking for something a little bit different, Hell Is Us is a really, really fun, unique adventure game with light RPG elements that's all really about exploration and puzzle solving in a game that doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't give you endless checklists or a quest marker to follow. It's really you dropped in these gorgeous environments, just kind of trying to piece things together yourself, while also fighting off monstrous hordes. It's got a really distinct type of mood and atmosphere to it. It's pretty mature and gritty. The world they built is pretty interesting, and while the main character feels a little generic, it's really the exploration and the vibes where this game truly succeeds. I think this one has been overlooked quite a bit. I really enjoyed it. If anything I've said feels like it's kind of up your alley or your flavor, I think you should give it a shot. Next at number 18, sticking with unique games, we have The Alters. The Alters is essentially one part sci-fi space survival game and one part Fallout Shelter in terms of managing bases, rooms, and people. But the twist here is that all the people you manage in your base is just one guy. It's one guy who's cloning himself on this space station. And with that comes a whole story with dialogue choices, decision trees, all centered around this one guy trapped in space, Jan, cloning himself and getting different versions of himself. Like, what if he went to college? What if he didn't go to college? What if he got in an accident? What if he, like, his mom died or something like that? All these different variations of these characters are forced to interact with each other. And it's just really cool from a storytelling standpoint. Not to mention, it's just a good, fun, simple survival game as well. You're venturing out into a hostile planet in your spacesuit, mining resources, getting your clones to work for you, and then going back, building your base up, and developing more technology to continue to survive. The Alters is flawed, but also really cool and really unique. Next at number 17, Chronos: The New Dawn. This is a new game from Bloober Team, the people most recently behind the Silent Hill 2 remake. This is a completely new sci-fi horror adventure from them, heavily inspired by Dead Space. But here, it takes place on Earth, and it's really gross and creepy. It's got some solid combat and some really good survival horror elements. It's also surprisingly challenging, more so than you'd expect. But along with that, it tells a good story. If you're just looking for a good old, straightforward third-person survival horror game, maybe you played the Resident Evil 4 remake and you've been looking for that next thing to scratch that itch, Chronos might do it for you, man. Next, over at number 16, we have Mafia: The Old Country. This is a new Mafia game that takes place in the past, early 1900s Sicily. With that comes a completely different setting change. Like, you're not running around cities, driving cars, shooting machine guns. You're using the occasional guns, but mostly you're just roaming the countryside in some old school vehicles or riding on a horseback and getting into knife fights. It's really a story-driven game because, like the previous Mafia games, they're not really focused on open world activities and keeping you busy. It's fairly linear, and even if the story's a little predictable in spots, the presentation, the voice acting, and just the adventure itself, it's a good ride. They've also updated the game recently and added some more content, optional outfits, driving in first person, so it seems like they are adding to the experience, but the base actual adventure was worth checking out. Next at number 15, we have Doom: The Dark Ages, another Doom game that just shakes up the formula. It's not a direct follow-up in feel to Doom Eternal or Doom 2016. It kind of does its own thing. It's set in more of a kind of heavy metal medieval setting. You have a razor-sharp Captain America shield you can throw down, and you're just a badass punching through all types of gross dudes using some really cool, unique weapons, and it's a bit slower than Doom Eternal. That's been very much hyped up to be a thing where in Doom Eternal, you were like a fighter jet, and in Doom Dark Ages, you're more like a tank. But I'd say in this, you're still a pretty fast, highly efficient, brutal tank. It has some open environments where you wander around as the Doom Slayer, kind of exploring and collecting things. I don't think all elements of this game are going to work for everybody. Personally, I like the mech sequences. I didn't really like the dragon sequences, but here at GameRanks, we still all had a really good time playing through this one. If you like a good, brutal, old school first-person shooter, look no further. Next, over at number 14, Dying Light the Beast. This is essentially a throwback to the original Dying Light. You're once again playing as protagonist Kyle Crane, who did not return for Dying Light 2. But essentially, Dying Light the Beast is a pivot from a lot of the stuff they developed in Dying Light 2 and how that grew out, and they're going back to basics here, and it absolutely works. It's very distinctly Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 1 the following DLC in terms of focus and feel and direction, but it still plays around with new weapon types, some really cool moments and mission designs, and the main character kind of having superpowers. So think Dying Light, but you feel more like a badass, and honestly, I think that's what the doctor ordered. This game is definitely going by pretty underrated this year, but you should definitely check it out. Next at number 13, we have Shinobi Art of Vengeance. If you're looking for an old school style Shinobi game, or you've never experienced one before, this game absolutely kicks ass. From the level of challenge it brings to the actual design of the layouts, the feel of the combat, and the art, the character designs, all that stuff is absolutely gorgeous. Art of Vengeance is incredible. Again, I don't think you just need to be an old school Shinobi fan to get into this one. I think if you've never played one, you can pick this up and have an absolute blast. It plays really well on handheld, definitely recommend it there, but also it's gorgeous enough to stand up, blown up on a big TV. Either way, get ready for some challenge, but either way, it's definitely worth checking out. Next at number 12, speaking of challenging games, the most challenging game, Hollow Knight Silksong. What more can be said about this one? This game was viral for years, essentially a meme, while people waited for it to finally release. And 2025 was the year. We got Hollow Knight Silksong, and it is an incredible follow-up to the original Hollow Knight, which is a much bigger game, more to do, more capabilities with your character, and more challenge. There's a lot of fun optional stuff to uncover, weird secrets, and just unexplained things in the game that have been fun to really kind of piece together and figure out since it's been released. Honestly though, it's probably best to go in blind. If you played Hollow Knight, you know what to expect. If you didn't play Hollow Knight, just know this game is a hell of a ride. It's one that's going to test you and really push you, but it's worth persevering for everything from the way it's all designed to the way it looks and sounds. Hollow Knight Silksong is just something truly special. Next at number 11, if you're looking for something a little bit easier, we can definitely recommend Sword of the Sea. This is the next game from Giant Squid, the people who made The Pathless and Abzu, and one of the original people behind Journey from back in the day. So once again here, you get a relaxing, cool, artful experience with really fun, smooth movement and gameplay mechanics, but also a beautiful world to explore with some incredible art direction and stunning color and visuals, but also really good music, once again by famed video game composer Austin Wintory. Here, the movement gliding around essentially on kind of like a hoverboard skateboard that is like your giant sword, it's just cool as hell. I know it's an overused word, but it is like definitely one of those vibes games, but it's a cool adventure. It shows you some good, fantastical stuff, and it's only a few hours. It is definitely worth checking out if you like these types of games. They're not for everybody, but when these games click with you, trust me, they'll click with you. Next at number 10, we have Where Winds Meet. This was a game that last year blew up in China on PC and mobile, and now it's been ported to the West, and essentially this is a free-to-play game that doesn't look like a free-to-play game. It looks like a big-ass third-person action-adventure RPG with cinematic cutscenes, over-the-top boss battles, a great character creator, and tons of content. All types of subsystems, battle systems, RPG elements, building out houses. It's incredibly ambitious. Essentially, it throws the kitchen sink at you. While it didn't connect with me on like a storytelling level, you can't deny that there is a lot of game here that you get for free with just microtransactions centered around cosmetic skin stuff. As much as I was pretty critical of it, credit where credit is due, it seems like people are really freaking loving it. And there's no denying that parts of it are absolutely stunning. Now down at number 9, Split Fiction, the next game from the people behind It Takes Two. This is a complete co-op adventure where you play as two characters, two young women who are writers. One of them is a writer of fantasy-style books, the other writes sci-fi books, and they get sucked into their own creation. So essentially, it's you guys running around dealing with lasers, flying cars, lightsabers, space marines, and then mystical castles, orcs, dungeons. It's a a lot of running and jumping, using abilities, and it's just a well-paced game where you and your friend, whoever you're playing with, are always doing different things gameplay-wise, but the brilliance is that you're also doing it in different settings. You're constantly flip-flopping between different fantastical settings, different sci-fi settings, and it really is a sight to behold. It does some incredible stuff. The story is pretty good, but it's really just the moment-to-moment stuff that is so engaging. Along with that, the end sequence pushes technological barriers in a way I've never experienced. The stuff it does on screen makes me go, wow, how the hell did they pull that stuff off? When a video game really feels like magic from a technical standpoint. They nailed that here. Split Fiction is absolutely worth playing through with somebody you really like. It's just a hell of an entertaining gameplay ride. You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cheer, you're gonna be challenged. It's awesome. Next at number 8, Death Stranding 2. Hideo Kojima follows up the original Death Stranding with essentially a sequel that just brings way more storytelling, way more over-the-top crazy cutscenes, but also way more going on in the gameplay department. In a lot of ways, it's pretty easy because it just gives you so many tools and so many ways to do things, but I found that to be a lot of fun. It feels distinctly different from the original Death Stranding, but the combat is better, the stealth is better, and it doesn't lose sight of what it is because you're still making deliveries. You're still walking across rugged terrain trying to survive. I'm curious to see how they're going to update this one because Death Stranding 1 at launch and then Death Stranding like a few years later were updated to be like almost completely different games in some ways, so I'm curious to see how Death Stranding 2 is going to change, but I had a great time playing through this one. I think we all did here. It's still enough like the first one where I'll say it's not for everyone. If you didn't like the first one, you might not like this one, but this one is crazier, zanier, funnier, and more distinctly Hideo Kojima-ish. Next at number 7, we have Dispatch. This was an episodic story-based game that's essentially a spiritual successor to a Telltale game. If you like The Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands, The Walking Dead, this really carries the torch. A lot of the original people behind those worked on this, and Split Fiction is a game where you play as this guy down on his luck who takes a job at a superhero dispatching office. So the gameplay, while pretty simple, involves you sitting at your computer, looking at a map of the city, and spotting crimes and sending out the right superhero to do the job. That stuff is really only a side part of the game. This is very much a story-based game, a cutscene-heavy game, but the story it tells is great. The characters are incredibly engaging, and you're gonna really like a lot of them. If you are a story gamer, if you appreciate video games for the storytelling, you absolutely owe it to yourself to check out Dispatch. It's really cool, and I hope they make a sequel, because there's so much more they can do. Next, at number 6, we have Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Look, in a year where a new Mario Kart released with Mario Kart World, I think the game on a lot of people's lips, the game that has stayed in the conversation, has actually been Sonic Racing, because it's pretty damn sweet. They've added more characters, it's got a lot going on in the gameplay department just in moment-to-moment racing, and it's a visual spectacle. It's incredibly entertaining, whether you want to play it casually with your younger siblings or a child, or if you want to get a little hardcore with it, either way, it absolutely delivers. Sonic has been on a good streak recently as a franchise, and we hope they keep it up. Next at number 5, we have PlayStation's big first-party exclusive game for the year. It's Ghost of Yotei. The follow-up to Ghost of Tsushima takes place in a different region of Japan, different time period, different main character. The story of Atsu is one of revenge, and you're going to absolutely love this story or be indifferent to it. But either way, I think the gameplay absolutely still delivers. You're clashing swords with really fun, just challenging enough swordplay. You still feel like a badass Ronin. The landmass here you explore is absolutely beautiful. It's bigger, there's more to discover and more to do, but it doesn't lose sight of some of the open world elements that made the original game special. So if you like that, you might find a lot here. I personally am still partial to the original game. I like Jin Sakai's adventure a little bit more, but Ghost of Yotei has more fun weapon types, boss battles, tons of enemy encounters and combat opportunities, and a gorgeous world. Next at number 4, one of the best games of the year has to be Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. They took everything from the first game and really learned and really developed it and made a massive RPG. it really feels like you can sit here and live in this medieval kingdom forever. This is an absolutely dense game, a massive game that thankfully focuses on some really great storytelling as well. From side quests and diversions to the main adventure itself, the story of Henry continues to be an incredible one. The combat is more accessible, but also more entertaining this time around. The RPG elements are more fine-tuned and more interesting. There's better loot. The world is absolutely gorgeous, feels way more massive. Look, I'm going to hype this one up. I'm going to shill for it. I can't help it. I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is one of the best RPGs we've had in a minute, and definitely one of the best experiences of the year, full stop. Next down at number 3, Battlefield 6. It's safe to say that Battlefield is back. After missteps with their last game or two, Battlefield 6 delivers the goods. It gives a lot of people what they want, and is something that feels more like Battlefield 3 and 4. It's intense, it's cinematic, it has moment-to-moment crazy scenes. The gunplay is tight, the destruction is awesome, the maps are good top to bottom, the big ones, the small ones. I think Battlefield 6 just has a lot to offer in terms of a multiplayer package. It doesn't feel overly live serviced yet or anything like that. It's just a straight up multiplayer game. Now, they did add the Battle Royale RedSec mode, which some people love, some people not so much, but either way, I think Battlefield 6 on its own is just absolutely great. The campaign falls short, but the multiplayer package is comprehensive and worth the price of admission, from downright shocking sound design to great weapon customization. Battlefield 6 offers a lot, and I think they nailed almost all of it. Especially in a year where people are pretty burnt out or sick of Call of Duty, Battlefield 6 offers something that feels distinctly different. Now down at number 2, if we're talking about something distinctly different, Arc Raiders. This is another multiplayer game, but this is a PvPvE extraction shooter set in a post-apocalyptic world where it's you, humanity, living underground, going up to the surface to scrounge for parts to survive and fighting off against all types of evil robots. And this is just a good, solid, fun third-person shooter that does a good job bringing extraction shooter elements to the mainstream. It feels accessible, but it still feels challenging and tense. The gunplay is good, shooting feels fantastic, thanks to also just some great sound design, but it's the maps themselves that I've absolutely loved exploring. Not to mention encountering players. Sometimes they can be intense standoffs, or you decide to team up to take down a big robot. That sense of community that has really kind of blown up with this game has been really interesting to see play out. Arc Raiders is absolutely cool and gets our seal of approval, and we're excited to see where they go from here, because this is just a solid foundation. Now down at number 1, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game has been talked about so much, some might even say it's overhyped, but I found this to be a great turn-based RPG adventure that tells a great story with characters you love. Characters you will remember, a story you will remember, an ending that I think is worth talking about, in a world that's very interesting and creative, but for me, it is the music and the voice acting that really just shoots this game into the stratosphere. The score for this game is incredible. The turn-based battles are fun, especially some of the optional super challenging ones. I think some old school turn-based JRPG fans will really find a lot to love there. Either way, it's a great adventure and it's worth experiencing this year. They absolutely nailed it. Those are 25 games in a big old list, but we got more that we couldn't cram in. First, Digimon Story Time Stranger, absolutely underrated. Just ask a lot of our comment sections here because we haven't covered the game enough. Also, it's worth pointing out that Indiana Jones and Forza Horizon got PlayStation releases this year. Plus, Ninja Gaiden 4, a nice return to form, and Ready or Not, if you're looking for a tactical, slow-paced, first-person shooter. Those are some of the best PS5 game releases of 2025. There's definitely more out there. We couldn't fit them all, so let us know your picks down in the comments. If you like talking games with us every single day, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out. And if you're new, consider subscribing, maybe hitting that notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.